There's another phrase that might seem backwards to us that we find in the Bible and in the New Testament, but we also sort of hear it out there in society. And it goes like this: it is better to give than to receive. That might seem backwards to us, or at least it does when you're younger. I know that I have two kids, and when they were younger and one had a birthday party and they were getting all the gifts, it was only a matter of time before the other one said, "Well, where's my gifts?" Why? Because it's not better to give than to receive. It's better to receive, or at least when you're young it is. But then there's a step of maturity that we usually have. And we find that it is better to give than to receive. We find that it feels good to give, and so sometimes we give. Or we find the principle that when you give, usually what comes around goes around. Sort of the pay it forward principle. If I give, then I'll probably end up eventually getting back also. And so we develop a desire to give. But then there's another step of maturity. We don't always want to or desire to give. Sometimes it's inconvenient, and sometimes we find that things aren't coming back our way. But we know that we should give, and so desire becomes duty. I have the duty to give. It's better to give than to receive, because if I'm not giving, then I'm being selfish. But then there's a third step of maturity, and it's not so much about desiring to do it or knowing that you have the duty to do it, but it's realizing that when you give, you're giving to someone, that there's a relational component, and you want to help someone out and give to them because it betters them and because you can be a blessing in their life. In fact, in Acts chapter 20, where we find this verse, Paul is the one who speaks it, and he doesn't say it's better to give than to receive. He says it is more blessed to give than to receive. This relational principle that when you give to someone else, you can be a blessing to them, and they will feel blessed by you. And isn't that a great thing? So instead of desire or instead of duty, all of a sudden it becomes about devotion to someone whom you love. With all of this, I think of a certain thing that happened in my life, or a progression with regard to mowing the lawn. My dad, who is no longer with us, Jerome Clark Davies, who is a wonderful father, he wanted me to mow the lawn, of course, when I was growing up. Now, when I was really young, I did not desire to mow the lawn. I wanted to play with my toys and watch TV and these sorts of things. But then eventually I thought the lawnmower was sort of cool, and I desired to mow the lawn. I saw my dad mow the lawn and the cool lines that it made, and I said, oh, I want to mow the lawn. And I also realized that if I did mow the lawn, that I would probably get a little allowance money out of it, and so I desired to do that. Later on, though, I didn't so much desire to mow the lawn. I became a high school student, and I wanted to sleep in and hang out with my friends. And what happened then? Well, I still needed to mow the lawn, and I realized that it was my duty to do that because my dad had asked me to do that. But then I went to college, and my later years, my dad developed something called pulmonary fibrosis, which is a slow deterioration of the lungs, and you can't breathe the way that you used to breathe. And so he couldn't mow the lawn. He needed someone to mow the lawn. But at that point, I wanted to mow the lawn because of my dad. I realized how much he loved me. I realized how much he had given me his whole life. And it was no thing at all for me to take that time to mow the lawn, because I was devoted to my dad, whom I loved. Not desire, not duty, but devotion. And we should want to do the things that God calls us to do because we love him. We love him so much because as we reflect, we realize how much he first loved us. Jesus maybe didn't desire to come to earth and to live and to die on the cross. And yes, it was his duty to do so because his Father called him that, but Jesus was devoted to us. Jesus did it because he loved us. It wasn't about desire or duty, it was about his devotion to us. It's better to give than to receive because you are more blessed when you give than when you receive. just like Jesus blessed us when he gave himself for us.